complete.
Aisling Duval rejects Nova Imperium. Princess Aisling Duval has publicly rejected the isolationist group Nova Imperium and its head, Hadrian Duval. These extremists cause only division. Hadrian may well be the grandson of Hengist Duval, but that hardly makes him suited to the throne. Arisa has been silent for too long. She must act quickly to resolve this volatile situation. Senator Zelina Torval responded, "Much to my surprise, I find myself in agreement with Princess Duval. The notion of an independent pilot becoming ruler of the Empire is preposterous. I am confident that the Emperor will respond accordingly." Despite this united front, Senator Paul Vespasian stated, "Many senators are willing to recognize Hadrian Duval as Emperor-in-waiting. Nova Imperium is now a legitimate political movement with several million supporters. The only way the Empire will survive is by accepting the Imperator's proposals." Supplies needed for Imperial festivities. Imperial Senator Simone Leedrix has announced plans for a week of revelry at her palatial residence on Capitol, in the Aquilar system. The senator told the media, "We Imperials value the finer things, even during times of political upset. So I intend to celebrate the end of the year with a sumptuous party at my mountaintop retreat, which will be specially renovated for the occasion. To feed the hundreds of high-profile guests and decorate the senator's residence, Senator Leedrix has asked the Semi-S Imperial Society to organize deliveries of food and newly refined jewels to Mackenzie Relay and the Semi-S system. The initiatives begin on the 20th of December 3304 and will run for 1 week. If either initiative meets its targets earlier than planned, the campaign will end immediately." Battle ceases in Wally Bay system. The conflict between two opposing factions in the Wally Bay system has ended. The fleets of both Wally Bay Technical and the traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party were significantly reduced in a prolonged series of battles. The leaders of both organizations issued a joint statement. "We recognize that our military leaders overreacted to accusations made by both parties. For humanitarian reasons, we have agreed to bring hostilities to an end. But we will honor the commitment made by independent pilots on both sides, who are now authorized to collect their rewards from the Wally Bay system." New mining tools released. A range of new asteroid mining equipment is expected to trigger an increase in the availability of ores and minerals. A spokesperson for the Industrial Mining Guild discussed the new tools at an industry symposium. Using mining lasers to remove surface deposits from asteroids can be difficult. The new abrasion blaster fires projectiles that break them free more easily. For deeper deposits, subsurface displacement missiles can penetrate the rock and then be detonated remotely, releasing larger chunks of material. Finally, there is now a way to access valuable resources deep within certain rare bodies. Seismic charges, when carefully positioned, can crack an asteroid open and free the minerals at its core. Combined with upgrades to existing tools, such as scanners and prospector limpets, we are confident that these new tools will result in a surge in private mining activity. Call to ban Far God book. Disgraced politician Juanita Bishop has called for a forthcoming book about the Far God sect to be banned. The authors, Aliena Vandoconquo, are known alien sympathizers. One was arrested as a suspected traitor and the other has admitted to being a Far God cultist. What they're writing is nothing more than Proth-Argoid propaganda. It is an insult to all the brave souls who died trying.
Surface scan complete.
Keep us safe. The authorities need to prevent this book from contaminating innocent people with its repulsive ideas. Journalist Gethin Okonkwo, who spent months undercover in the Far God sect, responded. The book includes first-hand accounts of worshippers being attacked by Bishop's followers. Her desperation to halt its publication is nothing more than an attempt to prevent a criminal investigation into her activities. Positive response to Vitadyne Nanomeds. The Interstellar Health Organization, IHO, has delivered a preliminary report on the nanomedicines recently developed by Vitadyne Labs. The summary stated, nanomedicine is a carefully regulated branch of medical science, with little scope for public application, but Vitadyne's nanomeds are more sophisticated and reliable than any existing product. Furthermore, Vitadyne's data regarding healing, disease treatment and extension of longevity has been verified. Having confirmed the product's effectiveness, IHO teams are now conducting independent tests with patients. Media outlet Vox Galactica published this viewpoint from healthcare analyst Dr. Himari Gray. The pharmaceutical industry is astonished that a small company like Vitadyne could produce something so advanced. Professor Catriona Rook's credentials are impeccable, of course, but this is a work of genius. These nanomeds could be the most exciting thing in medicine for decades. Week in Review. Here are this week's major stories. A new networked system named the Codex has been released to the galactic community. The Codex is a joint initiative from the Pilots Federation and Universal Cartographics, which announced that the system had been automatically uploaded to all vessels registered with the Pilots Federation. 2 new ships marketed towards independent pilots have been released. The Mamba, from Zorgon Peterson, is reputedly one of the fastest ships in production, while the Crate Vanta, manufactured by Falcon de Lacy, has been envisaged as a multi-role vessel. Hadrian Augustus de Val, the long-lost grandson of Emperor Hengist de Val, has broadcast a message to the Empire in which he emphasized his humble background and stressed that he had lived an ordinary life. He concluded with the words, "I've seen how diminished the Empire has become, and I know that new leadership is sorely needed." Meanwhile, the Interstellar Health Organization has delivered a preliminary report on the nanomedicines recently developed by Vitadyne Labs. The report states that Vitadyne's nanomeds are more sophisticated and reliable than any existing product, and that Vitadyne's data regarding healing, disease treatment and extension of longevity has been verified. In other news, conflict has erupted between 2 factions in the Wally Bay system. Hostilities were triggered after the Wally Bay technical claimed to have discovered stolen food shipments aboard their rivals' transport vessels. This was denied in an official response by traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party. Military leaders from both factions have issued calls to independent combat pilots, offering rewards for their support. Finally, an initiative to deliver rare commodities to an esoteric cult in the Zlotta system has concluded. Barnabas Cole, leader of the Children of Tothos, submitted a handwritten message to the media that read, "By helping us, you free yourselves. You will feel the light of our testament fill you, just as it fills the heavens." And those are the main stories this week. Children of Tothos initiative concludes. An initiative to deliver rare commodities to an
Surface scan complete.
esoteric cult in the Zlotta system has concluded. Independent traders provided Agonai Crush, Motrono Experience Jelly, and Onion Head for a ceremony to be performed by the Children of Tothos. Other pilots protected the rare goods from being taken by pirates. Barnabas Cole, leader of the Children of Tothos, gave another handwritten message to the media. "By helping us, you free yourselves. You will feel the light of our testament fill you, just as it fills the heavens." The initiative was organized by Zlotta Federal Holdings, which allegedly counts some high-ranking officials as cult members. Contributing pilots can now collect their rewards from the Slain Varhard settlement in the Zlotta system. Battle commences in Wally Bay system. Conflict has erupted between 2 opposing factions in the Wally Bay system. Hostilities were triggered after Wally Bay technical claimed to have discovered stolen food shipments aboard their rivals' transport vessels. The faction spokesperson said, "Robbing innocent people of vital supplies is nothing less than an act of war, and we are treating it as such." This was denied in an official response by the traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party. This outrageous accusation is intended to drive off our trade partners and damage our economy. We won't tolerate such slander. Military leaders from both Wally Bay Technical and the traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party have issued calls to independent combat pilots, offering rewards for their support. The two factions have set out week-long operations that will begin on the 13th of December 3304. Hadrian Deval addresses the Empire. Hadrian Augustus Deval, the long-lost grandson of Emperor Hengist Deval, has broadcast a message to the Empire. I am no wealthy senator from an entitled family, but someone who has lived an ordinary life. Someone who understands the hardships faced by many imperial citizens. As Hadrian Jansen, I was a poor child with no family other than my father. Together we scraped a living as independent traders. He never spoke of his past, not even when he died 2 years ago. That was when I inherited his ship and became a commander myself. When Imperator Mordanticus informed me of my heritage, I knew I had to accept my identity as a Deval. I've seen how diminished the Empire has become, and I know that new leadership is sorely needed. I ask you to honor the legacy of the Deval bloodline. With Nova Imperium, let's save the Empire we love. Mamba and Crate Phantom released. 2 new ships marketed towards independent pilots, the Mamba and the Crate Phantom, have just hit the market. Zorgon Peterson issued the following press release for its new vessel. If it's speed and firepower you want, the Mamba is for you. Based on a racing prototype, it's the fastest commercially available starship, and it sports enough hard points for a range of devastating weaponry. Whether you're leaving competitors in the dust, or running rings around those pesky Argoids, think Mamba. Falcon de Lacy also released a statement for its latest design. The Crate Phantom offers true multi-role capability, allowing it to be customized for combat, mining, or trading. And for explorers, its impressive jump range means you really can reach out to the stars. This is a ship that can handle it all. Introducing the Codex. A new network database system named the Codex has been released to the galactic community. The Codex is a joint initiative from the Pilots Federation and Universal Cartographics, which issued the following joint statement. We are pleased to announce that the Codex has been automatically uploaded to the onboard systems of all vessels registered with the Pilots Federation. The Commander section of the Codex collates all ship data, including the pilot's personal achievements, while the knowledge base contains information on the galaxy's most prominent organizations and individuals. The Discoveries section is designed to support deep space exploration. As well as cataloging stellar bodies and other phenomena, it also logs confirmed and unconfirmed findings from fellow explorers. We hope the Codex will prove valuable to all commanders, and we look forward to it being updated with their findings. Week in Review. Here are this week's major stories. 2 corporations have merged to form one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the galaxy. Allied Medical Industries has united with NeoSelvin to create Neomedical Industries, which will sell drugs, equipment and services to both Alliance and independent systems. Independent company Vitadyne Labs has developed new pharmaceuticals that use nanoscale materials to repair cell damage on a molecular level. The company claims the nanomeds can heal injury in a fraction of the normal time, and even slow the aging process. The Interstellar Health Organization is reviewing the new medicines. Nova Imperium has revealed its choice for Emperor, an 18-year-old man named Hadrian Augustus Deval. The group claims that Deval is the grandson of former Emperor Hengist Deval, and that he has a legitimate claim to the imperial throne. The group's leader, Imperator Mordanticus, has called for Hadrian to replace Aris Alavigny Deval. Journalist Getino Conquo has commented on the Far God outposts found in the Etane system, saying that the logs recovered from the outposts illustrated how the faith attracted people from varied backgrounds. Okonkwo also said that the book he is writing with Dr. Alfred Alianov would reveal much about the Far God religion. An obscure cult based in the Zlota system has requested a range of rare items for an arcane ceremony. A handwritten statement from Barnabas Cole, leader of a group named the Children of Tothos, elaborated on the nature of the ceremony. Zlota Federal Holdings, which is thought to have some connection to the cult, is overseeing the initiative. Finally, a goodwill initiative from the Achilles Corporation has concluded. Chairman Gus Weaver of Achilles confirmed that the company had acquired enough commodities to manufacture replacements for the robots destroyed in the wake of the spy robot scandal. He also reminded consumers that the surveillance program at the heart of the scandal was safely deleted by the company's latest Coreware update. And those are the main stories this week. Mysteries of the Far God. Journalist Gethin Okonkwo has discussed the abandoned Far God cult outposts in the Etane system. During my months undercover as a Far God worshipper, I heard only whispered rumors about secret outposts. So the existence of two such settlements, on Etane 4A and 4C, proves that much remained hidden from me. The personal logs recovered from the outposts illustrate how the faith attracted people from varied backgrounds. I was astonished to hear the voice of a man with whom I once eagerly discussed the Far God's arrival, never realizing that he was a federal agent whose devotion was as fake as my own. The book I am co-writing with Dr. Royanov will reveal much about the Far God religion, but it's clear that many of its mysteries are yet to be uncovered. Nova Imperium unveils figurehead. Isolated
Surface scan complete.
Group Nova Imperium has revealed its choice for Emperor, an 18-year-old man named Hadrian Augustus de Val. The group's leader, Imperator Mordanticus, broadcast this message. It is incumbent upon me to reveal that Hengist de Val fathered not one, but two illegitimate children in his younger days. A few years before meeting Florence Lavigny, he had a brief affair with a slave in the imperial household. When Hengist's father discovered this, the matter was hushed up and the slave dismissed. The slave's son went on to sire a child of his own, Hadrian de Val, grandson of Emperor Hengist de Val. Hadrian was unaware of this until we located him and genetically confirmed his lineage. Arisa Lavigny de Val is a weak emperor who must be removed. We call for Hadrian de Val to be recognized as the true heir to the throne. The Imperial Herald's political journalist Casio Carvalho observed, "This announcement has shaken the empire to its very foundations. Having Hadrian as a figurehead has rallied those hardliners more comfortable with the idea of a male emperor. With a single stroke, Nova Imperium has gained considerable credibility and massively increased its support." Cult requests rare commodities. An obscure cult based in the Zlota system has requested a range of rare items for an arcane ceremony. A handwritten statement from Barnabas Kull, leader of a group named the Children of Tothos, was submitted to the media. This is the rite that will unmask us and allow us to see the path we will all take, together, toward freedom. Zlota Federal Holdings, which is thought to have some connection to the cult, has requested Agonite Brush, Motrona Experience Jelly, and Onion Head to be delivered to Naslane Volhard settlement, in the Zlota system. It has also placed a kill order on all ships on its wanted list, to protect those delivering these rare commodities. The initiative begins on the 6th of December 3304 and will run for 1 week. If the final target is met earlier than planned, the campaign will end immediately. Achilles Corp initiative concludes. A goodwill initiative from the Achilles Corporation has now concluded. Chairman Gus Weaver of the Seoul division of Achilles Corp announced, "Thanks to the dedication of many independent traders, we have now acquired enough commodities to manufacture replacements for all robots destroyed in the wake of the spy robot scandal. I'd also like to remind our customers that the illegal surveillance program was safely deleted by our latest coreware update. Remember, you can always trust Achilles." The deliveries were organized by the Adonet's Pro-Alliance bot, which also arranged to protect traders from attack. Pilots who contributed to the initiative can now collect their rewards from Henslow Market, in the Adonet system. New nanomedicine announced. Independent company Vitadyne Labs has developed an innovative new form of nanomedicine. Professor Catrian Rook published the following press release. Nanomeds are sophisticated pharmaceuticals that use nanoscale materials to repair cell damage on a molecular level. They can heal any injury in a fraction of the normal time, and can potentially cure almost any disease and infection. Furthermore,
Surface scan complete.
regular use of nanomeds affects cellular senescence, drastically slowing the aging process. In theory, nanomed users will live between 30 and 50 years longer, and will enjoy near-perfect health during those extra decades. After months of trials, we are inviting medical authorities, including the Interstellar Health Organization, to review our data. Pending approval, we hope to have Vitadyne nanomeds on the market soon. Merger creates megacorporation. Two eminent corporations have merged to form one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the galaxy. Allied Medical Industries, based in Alliance Space, has united with Neoselv Inc., a conglomerate that supplies medicines to a great many independent systems. The new mega corporation, Neo-Medical Industries, will sell drugs, equipment and services to both alliance and independent systems. The merger was closely monitored by the Interstellar Health Organization, IHO, an official inter-superpower body that regulates developments in medical science. In the pharmaceutical arena, only the Vandermeer Corporation, which supplies medicines exclusively within federal territory, is of a comparable size to the newly formed Neo-Medical Industries. Week in Review. Here are this week's major stories. Exothelegy and Dr. Alfred Deliana
Surface scan complete.
has commented on the abandoned Fargod outposts recently discovered in the Etane system. In a statement, Dr. Elyanov said that information recovered from the sites would be invaluable to the book he is writing with Gethin Okonkwo about the Fargod religion. Aegis has announced a breakthrough that has effectively neutralized the disruptive effects of the Argoid sensors on starports. New procedures in the application of meta-alloys mean that extremely small quantities are now sufficient to shield systems from disruption, resulting in a cure for what was once called the technological plague. Meanwhile, several Imperial senators have spoken in support of isolationist group Nova Imperium. Senator Paul Vespasian said that Imperator Mordanticus would be invited to address the Senate and detail his policies, and gave his backing to Nova Imperium's proposal to install a new emperor. Aegis has stationed a security force in the main system to protect the engineer Ramtar. Professor Albertesro said the force would provide continual support while allowing Ramtar's operation to remain independent. There has been no response from the Sirius Corporation, which recently arrested a cabal of officers from its private fleet for launching an incursion into Mean. The conflict between two rival factions in the Loha system has now come to an end. Freelance correspondent Carleen Troy reported that it had been a harrowing week for the people of Loha, but said that overall control of the system had finally been established. Finally, the Achilles Corporation has announced plans to replace all robots destroyed as a result of the recent spy robot scandal. The organization has placed an open order for quantities of robotics, computer components and microcontrollers, which will be used to produce brand new PA-912 administration robots. And those are the main stories this week. Senators support Nova Imperium. Several Imperial senators have spoken in support of isolationist group Nova Imperium. Senator Paul Vespasian made the following statement. Many of us see Nova Imperium not as extremists, but as realists. The citizenry is afraid of both Argoid invasion and of being weakened by collaboration with foreign systems. They look to the Emperor for salvation, and she offers them none. We intend to invite Imperator Mordanticus to address the Senate and detail his policies. This is a historic opportunity to restore the Empire's honor and integrity. Furthermore, Nova Imperium's proposal to install a new Emperor has my full backing. Aegis offers security to Ramtar. Aegis has stationed a security force in the main system to protect the engineer Ramtar. An announcement was made by Professor Albertesro. Ramtar's research has been enormously beneficial to our understanding of the Argoids, and resulted in developments that aid us in the conflict. We therefore have a vested interest in protecting his work. We have deployed a security force that will provide continual support while allowing Ramtar's operation to remain completely independent. Hopefully this will prevent any further disruption. There has been no response from the Sirius Corporation, which recently arrested a cabal of junior officers from its private fleet for launching an incursion into Mean. Li Yongrui, the CEO of Sirius Corp, has allegedly withdrawn his offer to work with Ramtar on Guardian human technology. Hostilities in Loha conclude. The conflict between two rival factions in the Loha system has now come to an end. Carleen Troy, freelance Warzone reporter, delivered a report for the Vox Galactica news service. This has been a harrowing week for the people of Loha. In that time, I've witnessed acts of brutality and heroism from both sides. But now that their resources are exhausted, overall control of the system has finally been established. For those pilots who took advantage of the conflict, this will have been a profitable exercise. Both factions have announced that pilots can now collect their rewards from Whitworth Station in the Loha system. Achilles Corp Initiative. The Achilles Corporation has announced
Surface scan complete.
plans to replace all robots destroyed as a result of the recent spy robot scandal. Chairman Gus Weaver, of the Seoul division of Achilles Corp said, "We take customer support seriously. That's why we're offering to replace, free of charge, any robots destroyed or damaged by owners who suspected them of behaving inappropriately. To achieve this, we've asked the Adonets Pro Alliance Fund to organize deliveries of robotics, computer components, and microcontrollers to Henslow Market, in the Adonet system. These will be used to produce brand new PA912 administration robots and other models. The Adonets Pro Alliance Fund has also placed a kill order on all ships on its wanted list, to ensure that those delivering commodities can do so safely. The initiative begins on the 29th of November 3304 and will run for 1 week. If the final target is met earlier than planned, the campaign will end immediately." Thargoid sensor disruption neutralized. Aegis has announced a breakthrough that has effectively neutralized the disruptive effects of Thargoid sensors on starports. Henrik de la Soda, a senior engineer at Aegis Research, told the media, "As we know, Thargoid sensors can cripple starports for weeks or months at a time, but recent advancements in our study of meta-alloys have resulted in an effective cure for what was once called the technological plague. New procedures in the application of meta-alloys mean that extremely small quantities are now sufficient to shield systems from disruption. Following this breakthrough, we have made arrangements to ship meta-alloys to all affected stations, to restore them to functionality. It will not be long before every starport in known space is immune to Thargoid sensor-related interference." Ulyanov discusses Thargoid outposts. Exotheologian Dr. Alfred Ulyanov has commented on the abandoned Thargoid outposts recently discovered in the Etane system. This fascinating discovery implies that the missing chapters of the Thargoid sect were not arrested or killed, but instead fled to secret outposts to avoid persecution. According to personal logs recovered from the sites, the sect's members planned to wait in suspended animation for the coming of the Thargoid. The logs also reveal surprising details about what motivated these individuals to devote themselves to the faith. Evidence suggests that the settlements on Etane 4A and 4C both came under attack, but whether by Thargoids or human forces is unclear. Mysteriously, no trace remains of the inhabitants. I am indebted to the explorers who discovered these sites. This information will significantly contribute to the book I am co-writing with Gittino Okonkwo about the Thargoid religion. Week in Review. Here are this week's major stories. Admiral
Redshift drive charging.
Yamamoto has been announced as the 6th member of the Alliance Council of Admirals. The position had been vacant for months after the previous appointment. Riri McAllister was discovered to be the coordinator of terrorist groups.
4, 3, 2,
A league of reparation. The decision has ruffled some feathers, not least because Admiral Yamamoto is a close personal friend of President Gibson Kincaid. The Mars Tribune has been closed and its owner arrested in the wake of the spy robot scandal. The announcement was made by Detective Captain Ramesh Thorne, who was recently reinstated to, and promoted by, the Federal Security Service. Thorne assured the public that the surveillance program installed in some Achilles Corporation PA912 robots had been removed. In other news, the Sirius Corporation has responded to the revelation that members of its private fleet conducted a mercenary raid on the Min system. Lee Yong-rui, CEO of Sirius Corp, confirmed that a cabal of junior officers had orchestrated an illegal operation to gain access to Phoenix Base. The officers now face multiple charges. Isolationist group Nova Imperium has declared its intention to install a new emperor. The group's leader, recently identified as ex-Navy Admiral Duke Queso Mordanticus and known as the Imperator, said that the superpower had been weakened by collaborating with its enemies, and that the new emperor would restore the glory of the Empire. Meanwhile, a long-standing rivalry between two factions in the Loha system has erupted into full-scale conflict. Relations were already strained when Loha Holdings accused its rivals of hijacking transport ships and murdering their crews. After the new Loha party claimed this was a false flag operation designed to discredit them, diplomacy was replaced by weapons fire. Since neither side has an extensive fleet, both have appealed for support. Finally, a spokesperson for Elbis Holdings has announced that its appeal for commodities has reached a successful conclusion. Hundreds of pilots supported the campaign by delivering goods to Polyakov Orbital, and by eliminating agitators in Olelbis, thereby ensuring the safety of traders. And those are the main stories this week. Nova Imperium demands new emperor. Isolationist group Nova Imperium has declared its intention to install a new emperor. The group's leader, recently identified as ex-Navy Admiral Duke Caso Mordanticus and known as the Imperator, said, "The Empire has been weakened by collaborating with its enemies. Aegis drains our resources to protect foreign systems from the Thargoids. Our security forces are stretched thin defending non-imperial systems, and Princess Taval sullies her honorable name by dallying with a federal libertine. Our people demand stronger leadership. We will achieve this by installing a new emperor, one who will restore the glory of the Empire." Political journalist Cassia Carvalho commented in the Imperial Herald. Naturally, there has been no response from Marissa Lavigny-Deval, but for many citizens, Mordanticus has articulated their unease about inter-superpower cooperation. With support for Nova Imperium increasing rapidly, a silent minority may now have found a voice. Sirius arrests rogue officers. The Sirius Corporation has responded to the revelation that members of its private fleet coordinated a mercenary raid on the Moon system. Li Yongrui, CEO of Sirius Corp, told the media, "Following a thorough inquiry, we have confirmed that a cabal of junior officers, with the aid of mercenaries, orchestrated an illegal operation to gain access to Phoenix Base. Although their intentions remain unclear, I can confirm they were acting purely in their own interests, and without official knowledge. The rogue officers, including those extradited into our custody by the Mean Defense Force, now face multiple charges, and could be imprisoned for life. I would like to express my sincere regret over this incident, and to personally apologize to Ramtar. I continue to hope that we can work together on further Guardian human technology." Hostilities erupt in Loha system. A long-standing rivalry between two factions in the Loha system has erupted into full-scale conflict. The commencement of hostilities was announced on the Vox Galactica news service by Carlene Troy, a freelance Warzone reporter. Relations were already strained when Loha Holdings accused its rivals of hijacking transport ships and murdering their crews. After the new Loha party claimed this was a false flag operation designed to discredit them, diplomacy was rapidly replaced by weapons fire. Since neither side has an extensive fleet, both Loha Holdings and the new Loha party have appealed for support. I've received word that they're offering substantial rewards to independent combat pilots who can aid them in this conflict. The two factions have set out week-long operations to take control of the system, which will begin on the 22nd of November 3304. Olelbis Holdings' appeal concludes. A spokesperson for Olelbis Holdings has announced that its appeal for commodities has reached a successful conclusion. Hundreds of pilots supported the campaign by delivering goods to Polyakov Orbital, and by eliminating agitators in Olelbis, thereby ensuring the safety of traders. Pilots who contributed to the initiative can now collect their rewards from Polyakov Orbital in the Olelbis system. Mars Tribune closes. The Mars Tribune has been closed and its owner arrested in the wake of the spy robot scandal. The announcement was made by Detective Captain Ramesh Thorne, who was recently reinstated to, and promoted by, the Federal Security Service. Kingsley Cordova, editor Lana Seagreed and other employees of the Mars Tribune have been arrested for blackmail and corruption. The news feed has been permanently dissolved, and the Cordova Group conglomerate subjected to a government audit. I would like to thank the anonymous whistleblower who exposed Cordova's scheme. She has now removed
System scan complete.
surveillance program from all Achilles Corporation PA-912 robots in exchange for immunity from prosecution. Chief Editor Lena Ravenhill wrote in the Federal Times, "The Mars Tribune abandoned its professional ethics in its hunt for salacious headlines, thereby undermining the role of honest journalism in our society. We are relieved to see justice done."
The Thargoids. Human-Thargoid contact. The Thargoids are a non-human race with a history of hostility towards humanity. The first recorded encounter with a Thargoid ship took place in 2849, although earlier undocumented encounters are believed to have taken place. In the years that followed, contact with lone Thargoid vessels was intermittently reported. Humanity clashed with the Thargoids in the 32nd century, but details of the conflict remained scarce for many years, and it proved difficult to differentiate authentic accounts of Thargoid encounters from the sensationalist media stories of the time. The discovery of abandoned intergalactic naval reserve arm bases in 3303 did much to dispel the fog, however. The INRA, a joint federal imperial initiative established in 3193, was responsible for researching the Thargoids and developing technologies to counter their aggression. But the organization's lack of accountability meant that the details of its research did not come to light until years after its dissolution. Almost all of the reliable data concerning the Thargoids has been sourced from INRA facilities. This data, originally deemed highly confidential, was declassified in 3304, following a resolution from the federal government and an imperial decree. Some controversy over the backing,
Fuel scooping complete.
and funding of the INRA remains, however. The Thargoids Society. The INRA discovered that Thargoid society is organized into hives, with most Thargoids falling into three categories: queens, princesses, and drones. Queens function as reproducers, while drones serve to maintain a favorable environment for the rest of the hive. Thargoid hives can be vast, although it may be that some of the larger observed groups are in fact multiple, overlapping hives. Ultimately, little is known for sure.
Warning, temperature critical.
The average Thargoid queen is at least as intelligent as a human being, while the typical drone possesses a more rudimentary level of intelligence. Existing evidence suggests that queens have extremely long lifespans, living for hundreds
Frameshift drive charging.
or even thousands of years. The variable size of queens' neurocraniums suggests this might be an indicator of age. Little is known about the precise nature of Thargoid reproduction.
4, 3, 2, 1.
But it is likely that queens can reproduce both sexually, with other queens, and asexually. It is thought that the latter method produces drones, while the former produces a new queen. Analysis of Thargoid specimens led some INRA researchers to believe that a new queen, or princess, becomes a full queen only once it has produced drones of its own. Significantly, queens are believed to be single-sex. The Thargoids' ability to reproduce asexually means that their populations can expand incredibly quickly, but it is thought that they deliberately restrict the size of the populace so as not to deplete all available resources. There is evidence to suggest that this is sometimes achieved by culling older drones. INRA testing indicated the queens perceive drones as entirely expendable, presumably due to the ease with which they can be replaced. Indeed, a Thargoid queen appears to give no more thought to the loss of a drone than a human would an eyelash. The Thargoids. Communication. The belief that Thargoids were capable of some form of extrasensory communication was often cited in the early years of human-Thargoid interaction. But prior to the discovery of INRA records, it was not fully understood. Professor Yuri Anslow of the INRA theorized that a Thargoid queen can communicate with the drones in its hive via a spread-spectrum electronic signal, and can use this signal to control the drones, and even to share their sensory input. Studies of battlefield footage certainly suggest some kind of near-instantaneous communication among Thargoids, and the presence of low-level radio noise in areas occupied by Thargoids indicates that they do indeed communicate via short-range electronic signals. Professor Anslow went on to claim that a queen could effectively see and hear through its drones, but her contemporaries were skeptical, dismissing the assertion as baseless. Professor Ishmael Palin, one of the galaxy's foremost experts on the Thargoids, has even gone so far as to denounce Anslow as a glory hound. Thargoids have been known to make staccato clicking noises with their mouthparts when in the presence of humans, punctuated with occasional hisses and buzzes. They've also been observed directing such noises at one another, albeit much less frequently. Professor Albert Tesreau, a founding member of the joint superpowered Initiative, Aegis, and a specialist in interspecies communication has studied INRA audio logs and suggested that the sounds probably represent some kind of language due to the repetition of certain sound combinations. It is unclear why the Thargoids would sometimes choose to communicate with each other vocally, given their capacity for extrasensory communication. Professor Anslow suggested that the sounds could be designed to intimidate enemies or opponents, noting that Thargoids often produce them prior to combat. Thargoid ships have been observed emitting a complex array of sounds, and in some cases subtly changing color. The exact meaning of these behaviors has not been determined, but they appear to correspond to different emotional states. What is not known is if these sounds are produced by the pilot and amplified by the ship, or emitted by the ship itself. If the sounds originate with the pilot, it would suggest some kind of physiological connection between pilot and vessel. Given the sophistication of Thargoid bioengineering, however, it is possible that the sounds come from the ship itself, and that Thargoid ships are able to feel and communicate to a limited degree. The hulls of Thargoid ships are typically emblazoned with one of several symbols, the meaning of which is unknown. Some have theorized that they could denote membership of a particular familial group, or possibly be an indicator of rank. The Thargoids. Physiology. Human understanding of Thargoid physiology is far from complete, but recovered INRA data has offered some
Frameshift drive charging.
insights into their nature. INRA records describe the average Thargoid as physically larger than a human being, and generally insectoid in appearance. Thargoid biology is carbon-based.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Using an RNA-like encoding for biological information, but Thargoid chemistry is based on ammonia rather than water. Consequently, while Thargoids can comfortably tolerate environments as cold as 80 degrees Celsius, they cannot withstand environments warmer than 45 degrees Celsius for long. According to notes compiled by Dr. Peregrine Hennig, an INRA researcher, Thargoids can survive for a significant time in the vacuum of space without apparent discomfort, and can tolerate radiation and extreme cold for far longer than a human. The Thargoids. Vulnerabilities. In 3250, the INRA developed a biological weapon known as the mycoid virus for use against the Thargoids. The virus was the result of an accidental discovery made by an INRA researcher, who noted that a particular strain of fungus was found to thrive on the hulls of Thargoid vessels, and appeared to be digesting the material of which the ship was made. The INRA refined the fungal strain and began experimenting on living Thargoids in their spacecraft. The mycoid proved to have deleterious effects on both, leading to the swift elimination of the Thargoids active in human-occupied space at the time. It is widely assumed that since the last human-Thargoid conflict, the Thargoids have developed an immunity to the mycoid virus. The Thargoids. Starships. In terms of structure and function, Thargoid vessels are radically different from anything produced by humanity, and are able to navigate hyperspace in ways that are not fully understood. They are also at least partly organic, meaning that they can self-repair or heal over time. Ship function in general, and this restorative ability in particular, have been shown to be dependent upon the so-called Thargoid heart, a biomechanical organ found in varying quantities in different Thargoid ships. These hearts often survive the destruction of the ship, enabling them to be salvaged, although they can also be targeted and damaged with appropriate weaponry. They are highly corrosive, however, and require special containers for safe transport. Thargoid vessels that have sustained combat damage exhibit scar-like patterns. Given that Thargoid technology is sophisticated enough for such damage to be repaired, it follows that Thargoids might deliberately choose to preserve these scars. INRA logs document an encounter with a Thargoid mothership many times larger than other Thargoid craft, against which the mycoid virus was successfully deployed, although no such vessels have been reported in recent times. The Thargoids. Structures. Dozens of planets in human-occupied space are peppered with Thargoid barnacles, biological resource extractors that convert minerals into meta-alloys, a key component in the creation of Thargoid vehicles and technology. Theories that these barnacles have been genetically engineered by the Thargoids have yet to be verified. Larger structures, referred to as Thargoid surface sites, have also been discovered. These sites typically consist of a spiral-shaped structure, nestling within a shallow crater, beneath which lies a series of tunnels. At the heart of this subsurface network is a device that, once activated, emits a holographic star map. The sites are patrolled by semi-sentient biomechanical entities called scavengers. The Thargoids, War with the Guardians. Archaeological records have revealed that the extinct, non-human civilization known as the Guardians experienced conflict with the Thargoids many thousands of years ago. Logs recovered from Guardian sites indicate that the Thargoids were the aggressor in this conflict. Having seeded Guardian space with biomechanical constructs used for resource extraction long before the emergence of the Guardian civilization, the Thargoids apparently believed they were entitled to uncontested dominion of the territory. The Guardians attempted to communicate with the Thargoids and reach a compromise, but without success. Over the course of the conflict, the Guardians developed new technologies to give them an advantage against the Thargoids.
System scan complete.
These technologies were apparently successful, forcing the Thargoids to abandon their offensive. The Thargoids. Agenda. Thargoids do not attack indiscriminately, and their choice of targets shows them to be highly intelligent. They have also conducted targeted strikes on Aegis facilities and attacked pilots carrying Thargoid items,
Fuel scooping.
their cargo holds, indicating that they know they are being studied and want to halt the process. But despite their evident intelligence, they appear to be completely uninterested in meaningful communication. The engineer Ramtar, who has extensively researched the Guardians and their war with the Thargoids, holds the view that Thargoid aggression is a product of territorialism. They seed an area with barnacles, thus laying claim to it, and return, sometimes many centuries later, to harvest the extracted resources. Any life form advanced enough to compete with them for the territory is treated as an enemy and summarily attacked. Professor Palin concurs with this view, adding that the Thargoids are apparently so determined to eliminate any threats to their long-term survival,
Complete.
they will not tolerate any advanced species in close proximity. Individuals. Aidan Tanner.
Our species has been banding together to fight the outsider since we lived in caves. We stand against the lawless, the invaders, and the monsters. And we're proud to do it. But you have to remember one thing. Nobody in the history of conflict ever saw himself as a monster. Everyone believes they're the hero of their own story. If you can't understand that, if you can't stand in the enemy's shoes, even for a second, and ask yourself why he thinks he needs to kill you, then you don't know what it means to be a soldier.
Aidan Tanner, addressed to
Frameshift drive charging.
Cadets, 3298. Admiral Aidan Tanner is a senior officer in the Federal Navy. He has served for more than 4 decades, and in 3303 was given significant responsibility in the struggle against the Thargoids, first being appointed to Chief of Federal Security, and later to Chief Military Liaison for the Cross Superpower Initiative, Aegis. He is widely respected, even outside of federal space, for his conscientious and level-headed approach to conflict. Born in 3251, Tanner was expected to follow in the footsteps of his authoritarian father by becoming a doctor, but instead enlisted in the Federal Navy, along with a group of friends, in what he would later describe as a rash act of adolescent rebellion that I have not once regretted. Tanner's father died in 3277, the two never resolved their estrangement. Tanner's early naval career was anything but distinguished. Known to his comrades in arms as Spoonie for his habit of eating directly from food packets instead of using plates, he was distinguished more by his irreverent sense of humor than his competence. 6 months in, Tanner was found to be responsible for a scurrilous newsletter that satirized several senior officers, including Sergeant Burke Hazel, who was offended and deeply hurt. Hazel had taken a personal interest in Tanner and had encouraged him to persist when the cadet had struggled with basic training. Tanner's defense that he had been trying to improve morale was rejected, and although he was allowed to continue his service, he was marked as a potential insubordinate, a label that would later return to haunt him. Tanner's chief instructional officer, Commander Myra Dunstock, warned him to take military life more seriously. She took Tanner to a refugee facility, an experience he would later characterize as showing him what the military is there to prevent. Tanner recognized a last chance when he saw it, discarded his role as camp comedian, and threw himself into his training with unprecedented energy. The decisive incident in Tanner's career was the Autolycus mutiny of 3271. At the time, Tanner was serving as Chief Gunnery Officer on board the FDM Autolycus, a Farragut-class battlecruiser, under the command of Captain Jaden Horn. The ship was dispatched to restore order at Cold Harbor Station, which had been occupied by rebels following a descent into civil disorder. Captain Horn's orders were to monitor the station and await reinforcements. But when contact with the station was abruptly lost, he became convinced an attack was imminent. Surveillance footage later showed Horn acting in an increasingly erratic fashion. He screamed orders, slurred his words, and struck an ensign for making a minor mistake. Seeing a group of civilian ships preparing to leave the station, Horn ordered Tanner to open fire, convinced they were about to ram the Autolycus. Tanner refused to obey the order, claiming it was unlawful and that Horn was unfit to command. In the time it took for a furious Horn to have Tanner thrown in the brig, the escaping ships had jumped out of the system. At Tanner's court-martial, Horn tried to use his history of rebelliousness against him, but an explosive series of revelations followed. The escaping ships had been carrying evacuees, and the station's apparent silence was in fact due to Horn himself, who had disabled shipborne communications without telling his crew. Horn, who it would later emerge had been suffering from lexalamine-induced psychosis, committed suicide mid-trial by hijacking a fighter and detonating a grenade inside the cockpit. Tanner was exonerated, receiving a commendation from President Antonia Madison for his actions. Individuals. Aisling Duval.
My grandfather had an heirloom he used to keep in our winter palace. It was a priceless marble statuette of one of our ancestors standing with his foot on a woman's neck, while she looks up at him in fear or adoration, probably both. I loathed it. It was commissioned to commemorate some victory or other, but that wasn't the point of the thing. The message was clear, and it's the same one I've heard all my life. Deep down, the people we dominate are happy to be dominated. When I was 6 years old, I smashed it. The servants came running. My father stormed down the stairs in his gown. He asked if it was an accident. There was such a strange look in his eyes. I knew that if I said yes, nobody would argue. Nothing more would be said. But I didn't. I stamped my foot and said, "No, Daddy. I did it on purpose." It's the same with tradition. The people who pass it on think it's precious. They expect you to cherish it and pass it on in turn. But what they think doesn't matter, because the responsibility rests with you. If you know it's wrong, then you have to smash it. On purpose.
Aisling Duval. A fireside chat with Serena. 3301. Princess Aisling Duval, born in 3276, is a prominent member of the Imperial Royal family. The eldest
Fuel scooping complete.
child of the infamous Prince Harold, she had a troubled upbringing. Her father was notorious for his hedonistic lifestyle, while her mother, entertainer Imogen Eccentrica Gabriellini, died from an aneurysm shortly after
System scan complete.
Ashling's birth. The autopsy identified the cause of death as an overdose of purple sunflower, an obscure and expensive narcotic. The conspiracy theorists insisted that she was murdered to remove an embarrassment to the royal family. Aisling has indicated that she is aware of these rumors, but has never commented on them. Despite living a life of great privilege, Aisling has publicly embraced the cause of the less fortunate and become an outspoken opponent of slavery, something that has made her the target of fierce criticism from more traditionalist imperials. But despite this criticism, Aisling is a popular figure with a widespread media presence. Her campaigning has brought definite benefits to many of the poorest in imperial society.
Frameshift drive charging.
Gone some way towards easing tensions between the Empire and the Federation. Her critics, however, dismiss her as a puppet, doing the bidding of a shadowy circle of advisors. They claim there is no underlying...
4, 3, 2, 1.
coherence to Aisling's policies. To them, she is a naive and sentimental child, without the necessary experience for politics, backing one populist cause after another, always conscious of how her activism is affecting her brand. Significantly, the most savage of Aisling's critics and the staunchest of her defenders agree on a counterpart to this, that her apparent vacuity is nothing but a front, carefully created in collusion with the very advisors whom others believe are exploiting her. The People's Princess, they argue, is exceptionally good at being underestimated. Following the death of Hengist Deval in 3301, Aisling was considered by many to be a viable contender for the imperial throne. As Aisling was born out of wedlock, however, and her father was removed from the line of succession on the grounds of mental incapacity, Orissa Lavinie Deval was deemed to have the stronger claim. Individuals. Alba Tesreau.
I may not be religious, but I still have faith. Not the kind my parents have. In fact, I don't think their desperate devotion can even be called faith. The point of faith is that it's tested. And if you insist that your beliefs are above criticism or analysis like the star cults do, you're refusing to allow your faith to be tested at all. What do I have faith in? The fundamental sanity of the universe, I suppose. I don't believe in absolute evil, only in the iniquity that emerges when understanding fails. I believe intelligent life will naturally tend towards cooperation rather than conflict, not because there's a higher power guiding our decisions, but because that's simply the most logical course. And yes, our recent experiences with the Thargoids have tested that faith harshly.
Alba Tesreau. Professor Alba Tesreau is an Imperial scientist, an affiliate of the Achenar Research Council, and a founding member of the Joint Superpower Initiative Aegis, which was established in August 3303 to investigate the Thargoid menace. She currently serves as Aegis's head of research. Tesreau's biological parents were members of the Besmeratu cult, an isolationist group secreted within a sealed compound that believed itself to have been chosen for salvation by non-human beings. The cult's charismatic leader, Anton Hotep, claimed humanity had been under the protection of these beings for millennia, that he was their cosmic messiah, and that only the believers would be saved from the coming apocalypse. In support of these claims, he often produced alien artifacts, allegedly sourced from archaeological digs, that other cult members were never permitted to
System scan complete.
examine closely. Alba was marked as a troublemaker from an early age, due to her heretical belief in rationality and the scientific method. She was formally banished from Besmeratu after she sabotaged the air purifying system, forcing her
Fuel scooping.
to call for help from outsiders, and thus humiliating Hotep. After her story became public knowledge, she was adopted into the household of Senator Olivia Tesreau of Achenar and awarded a scholarship to study at Grand Imperial, alongside the children of the nobility. She wrote her master's thesis on the potential uses of mathematics as a lingua franca between human beings and intelligent non-humans. She's passionately interested in non-human intelligence and meaningful discourse between
Complete.
species. Despite the counterfeit alien contact myths of her early life, or perhaps because of them, she's determined to do whatever she can to act as a bridge between human and non-human cultures. Individuals. Archon Delane.
Frameshift drive charging.
I'll tell you, Delane is the most trustworthy cuss you could ever work with. Why? Because he always makes good on his threats. Anyone else tells you that they're gonna cut off your index fingers and hammer them into your side.
4, 3, 2, 1.
This is with your own center of foot. You know it's just muscle. But if Delane tells you that, you know he'll do exactly what he says. To the letter. He wants people to be afraid of him. And that means he keeps his promises. You gotta respect that.
Mantle Hoek, arms trader. Archon Delane is the head of the Cumo Crew, a powerful criminal syndicate. He refers to himself as the Pirate King, a title not recognized by any government. Delane's early life is not documented, and there are competing legends of his origin. Some believe he grew up in a drug den on one of the frontier worlds where he learned to fight. Other stories have him working as a bouncer in the brothel where he was born, or training as a grease monkey at an orbital shipyard that hosted clandestine arena fights after hours. What is certain is that Delane challenged and slaughtered the reigning pirate lord of the Cumo Crew when he was only 15. The title of Pirate Lord is only transferred on the death of the incumbent, either to a nominated successor or to the victor of a ritual challenge. According to tradition, the Pirate Lord must honor any challenge to his leadership, regardless of who issues it, although the choice of weapons is left to him. In Delane's case, Pirate Lord Crab opted for a bare hands contest, a highly unusual choice. It has been suggested that Crab saw Delane as a weak target due to his albinism, unworthy of the Pirate Lord's personal attention. It is possible that Crab intended to give Delane a beating rather than kill him outright. If so, it was a fatal act of mercy. Footage of the fight shot by onlookers shows Delane deftly evading Crab's heavy blows, allowing the larger man to tire himself out before delivering a sudden jab to Crab's eye. Delane then battered Crab into submission, continuing to pummel the body until it was unrecognizable. The Cumo Crew immediately split, dividing
Fuel scooping.
itself into those who saw Delane as a legitimate leader and those who refused to follow an unproven youth. The rift was soon closed, however, as Delane proved himself as capable a leader as he was a fighter. It became clear that Delane intended to establish not only his own reputation, but that of the crew. From then on, Delane crushed any dissent with the same uncompromising brutality he had shown to Crab. He took a zero-tolerance approach to the petty squabbles
Fuel scooping complete.
that had previously paralyzed the Cumo Crew, and in doing so, turned what had been an anarchic band of opportunists into a lethally effective raiding force.
System scan complete.
United in purpose and more organized than ever before, the Cumo Crew quickly became the terror of the Pegasus sector, absorbing lesser pirate gangs, raiding civilian stations with impunity, and taking over corporate facilities. In Delane's early years of leadership, many rival pirate lords demanded the right to one-on-one combat, each of them convinced that they would be the one to strike him down and take over his enviable criminal empire.
Frameshift drive charging.
Delane met each challenger in turn, agreed to their choice of weapons, and promptly dispatched them. After the death of Pirate Lord Horvath, who Delane strangled with his own razor whip,
4, 3, 2, 1.
there were no further challenges. Delane and his Cumo crew ruled by fear, and they operate according to strict rules. If a settlement in Cumo territory has paid its tribute, a Cumo pirate has evaded and risks being stripped of his rank, his crew, his possessions, his skin, and his life, according to the severity of the offense. These are the infamous 5 strippings. instigated by Delane as a standard punishment across Cumo territory. Individuals. Arissa Lavinie Duval.
I am a daughter, not just of the Emperor, but of the Empire. And I look upon our traditions and achievements with pride. I hold, as my forefathers did, that to be born Imperial is to receive the blessings of the universe. That is the true meaning of the ceremonial wine tipped upon our newborn heads. Does this pride in our heritage make me old-fashioned? Some would say so. I know that there are those in my family who cannot bear the burden of rank and privilege without a chronic sting of guilt. But I ask that you look charitably upon those so ailing, as I do. After all, rebellion is the prerogative of adolescence. I ask that you reserve your anger for a worthier target. For those who acknowledge our traditions in public, but privately serve only their own corrupt interests. For those who exploit their ancestors' sacrifices while holding our military in contempt. For all the petty, venom, spineless parasites in our very midst. I have sat with many such parasites, and for form's sake, I have masked my contempt. But that mask has served its purpose, and now I cast it aside. To the worms nestling so complacently in the heart of my beloved empire, I say this. We see you, and we are coming for you.
Fuel scooping.
Lavinie Duval. Private speech given at her post-coronation dinner. Arissa Lavinie Duval is the reigning emperor, having been appointed to the position by the Imperial Senate, and a direct descendant of the first emperor, Henson Duval. Her father was originally thought to be the late Prince Aristide de Lavinie, but Arissa's claim to be the illegitimate daughter of Emperor Hengist Duval has since been ratified by DNA
Complete.
testing. Arissa distinguished herself as a serving senator early in life. Unlike other senators who took their patron support for granted or left the work of intercession to a delegated representative, Arissa made a point of visiting and speaking directly with her patrons. Foremost among her concerns was how little scope for mobility the Empire offered. In theory, it was possible to rise in rank, but in reality, power was hoarded and loyal service went unrewarded. To her mother's horror, Arissa proceeded to go undercover as a slave in the Lagany house
System scan complete.
or Nakano, talking to the staff and listening in on meetings. What she learned would change her view of the Empire forever. The rules could be broken with impunity, so long as the proper bribes were paid. A senator's favor could be secured. A corporation's accounts could be doctored.
Frameshift drive charging.
And an atrocity could be covered up for the right price. On paper, it might be a patronage system, but it operated as a de facto plutocracy. Arissa's experience as a slave
4, 3, 2, 1.
also cemented her own view of imperial slavery, namely that it was no worse than indentured servitude, and downright luxurious compared to what the Federation's lowest paid workers had to endure. Non-imperial commentators responded by pointing out that slaves in noble households on Akron could hardly be held up as typical examples of slavery, and that Arissa might have learned more had she spent her time in a Mastopolis mining facility. Arissa has made no secret of her determination to restore the rule of law within the Empire. She means to purge it of corruption, and has received widespread public support for this cause. Unlike her niece, Aisling Duval, she sees the Empire system as inherently worthy. If impeded by long-term neglect, they need to be cleansed, not torn down and rebuilt, as per Aisling's wishes. As the first woman to serve as emperor, Arissa is a controversial figure to many, regardless of her personal political stance. Many hardcore traditionalists within the empire have vowed to depose her and replace her with a ruler more to their liking. Individuals. Denton Patrius.
What disgusts me? That's a perceptive question. By asking it, you reveal that you consider me a man of taste. If you'd asked me what I hated, I'm not sure I could have hidden my disappointment at such a banal question. But disgust, that deserves an answer. It's jealousy that most disgusts me. It's such a petty, self-defeating emotion. I see it every day. Most men look at me and think, I want what he has. Perhaps 1 in 1,000 thinks, how can I achieve what he achieved? Now, he's not jealous. He's motivated. Who knows? We might work together one day. But most men are not like that. They have the desire, but not the initiative. It's like a dog watching you eat and wishing he was a human. And that's the tragic thing about jealous people. They think they hate me, but really, they hate themselves. Because deep in their hearts, they know they're too lazy to fight for their dreams.
Denton Patrius, a fireside chat with Serena, 3302. Denton Patrius is a powerful Imperial senator and the Admiral of the Imperial fleet. He is a controversial figure, admired by many Imperials for his wealth and influence, but deeply unpopular in other quarters for his uncompromising approach to debtors. He is also noted for commanding one of the strongest private military fleets in colonized space. Patrius has repeatedly issued loans to struggling governments via shell companies, only to later hike up the interest rates. When the government defaults on the loan, a common occurrence, Patrius moves in to foreclose. Since few governments are able to match the power of his private fleet, this is usually a one-sided affair, although some governments have appealed for and received the aid of independent pilots. This strategy has brought numerous systems under the control of Patrius's various corporations. If Patrius has any long-term goals beyond increasing his personal power and holding the line against the Alliance and the Federation, they're not publicly known. Politically, he has always played the part of the loyal Imperial. He accepts the need for progress, and has devoted considerable attention to eradicating Emperor's Dawn, an insurgent organization responsible for the assassination of Emperor Hengist of Val. His support for the Empire has been well rewarded, and as Admiral of the Fleet, he enjoys an enviable level of prestige. But even this may not be enough, and many have speculated that Patrius harbors a desire to become Emperor. During the period of uncertainty that followed the death of Hengist of Val, Patrius suggested that the title of Emperor be assigned on the basis of public support, rather than lineal descent, a statement that was widely interpreted as a bid for the throne. When the succession passed to Arissa Lavinia de Val by vote of the Senate, Patrius did not contest it. The question of who should succeed Arissa Lavinia de Val is now a pertinent one. Imperial commentators have suggested that Patrius's highly visible courtship of Princess Aisling de Val may be part of a long-term strategy, as well as a piece of savvy media manipulation. Arissa Lavinia de Val has no children, whereas a child born to a Patrius de Val partnership could be an extremely strong contender for the throne. Individuals. Edmund Mahon.
Naturally, we faced criticism over the Luke conflict. Many people thought we should have been in there, guns blazing. On the one hand, you have a system that wants to be independent, and on the other, you have the oppressive Federation telling them no. The authorities in Lu put out a call for aid, and what did the Alliance do?
Fuel scooping.
We turned them down. That would never have happened on the Holos, would it? I would have been at the head of the Alliance fleet, taking down the Fed-Cap ship with a well-aimed torpedo up the tailpipe. But life isn't like the Holos. You need political and legal clarity. When Lu asked for our help, who exactly was doing the asking? The people? All right then, which people? Who counted their votes, and how was the process monitored? Was
Fuel scooping complete.
their decision an informed one, or were they bombarded with propaganda? The alliance is rigorous, you see. You can't join a voluntary association of free systems unless you can offer demonstrable proof of your freedom to choose. Just as you can't enter into a contract without being of sound mind, acting without coercion.
Edmund Mahon, responding to a question from Jessica Braganza, one of a party of schoolchildren visiting the Prime Minister's residence. Edmund Mahon is the current Prime Minister of the Alliance. The product of a corn-farming family based on Birmingham in the DSO system, Mahon was hard-working and shrewd from an early age, with a particular talent for negotiation. Nobody seemed able to beat his crop prices down, and he always managed to shave something off the asking price of any tools or machinery the family needed. In the first book of his autobiography, The Shadow of Silo 7, he attributes this talent to preparatory research, claiming that he always found out as much as he could about the people he would be dealing with before meeting them. At 18, Mahon won a federal scholarship to study law. Frustrated with
System scan complete.
what he saw as the imbalance of power between corporations and their employees, Mahon intended to specialize in cases of corporate exploitation. He quickly found, however, that the legal profession was not to his liking. Awash with duplicity, double talk, and corruption was his assessment, and he switched track to political science. 2 years into his course, and following a
Frameshift drive charging.
increasingly vocal series of broadcasts on a personal video channel in which he argued in favor of the newly formed alliance, Mahon's scholarship funds were abruptly cut off. He had unknowingly violated clause that required him to refrain from public criticism of the federal government. Unwilling to return to his family without having made something of himself, Mahon had no choice but to look forward while continuing to study. The bar in which he had spent so many hours as a student was happy to take him on as a bartender, and he proved so competent that after his graduation, he took on the role of manager. Mahon claims it was this experience, rather than any innate idealism, that set him on the path to becoming a career politician. As he puts it, a good bartender has to be able to listen and to give equal respect to everyone while demanding that others do the same. He has to be able to distinguish what is meant from what is said, encourage free exchange of views while tactfully enforcing the rules, and, when necessary, break up fights. Mahon's break into politics came when his friends encouraged him to run for city office against the favoured corporate candidate, Jensen Crane. The Mahon campaign began as a token protest, since Crane was expected to win by a comfortable majority. Mahon eviscerated Crane in the live debates, however, winning over the audience with a combination of wry humour and an empathetic awareness of local concerns that Crane could not hope to match, living as he did in a high-altitude apartment complex. Crane was elected by a narrow margin, but Mahon's supporters begged him to continue in politics. So it was that, at the age of just 27, Mahon found himself working alongside elder statesperson Irene Mendel, helping with the campaign to break the DSO system away from the Federation and make it a part of the Alliance. By the time DSO joined the Alliance in 3286, Mahon was a seasoned parliamentarian. He served as a planetary representative several times before making his bid for the premiership. Individuals. Felicia Winters.
Politics has always been a breeding ground for lies. But one lie outshines all the others. And today, we heard it once again. It is the insinuation that to seek a diplomatic solution is weak. That a preference for discussion over conflict means we're afraid to fight. We are accustomed to this, of course. We've heard the president's supporters pervert our words again and again. When we face up to the Federation's previous wrongs, they mock us for our so-called liberal guilt. When we celebrate a détente between the superpowers that will help us oppose the Thargoid menace, they imply that we are traitors. But it is they who are afraid, and with good reason, because the people of the Federation have had enough. They will no longer be manipulated into reckless conflicts that serve only to fatten the wallets of the arms dealers and the privileged. They will no longer pretend that Hudson's tub thumping and saber rattling is anything more than vacuous propaganda. From star to star, colony to complex, satellite to station, we hear the same heartfelt cry. Let the mistakes of the past remain in the past, and let the Federation embrace only the best of itself. Let us return to the core values of hard work, honest trade, support for the vulnerable, and mutual respect. The people are ready for us. Let us be ready for them.
Felicia Winters, Liberal Party Annual Address, 3303. Felicia Winters is the head of the Liberal Party of the Federation, and as such serves as ex officio shadow president, opposite President Zachary Hudson of the Republican Party. Winters was born and raised on Taylor Colony, one of the oldest human colonies, and worked for the Sirius Corporation before going into politics full-time at the age of 44. Her current role was thrust upon her unexpectedly. Prior to 3301, Winters was Secretary of State to then-President Jasmina Halsey. When both Halsey and Vice President Ethan Naylor went missing aboard Starship One, Winters became acting president. The assumption of this responsibility left her visibly shaken, and despite her popularity in Congress, it was widely felt that she was not up to the job. The Liberal Party was in a state of crisis at the time following the Lu conflict. A group of forces had sought to make the Lu system independent from federal control, prompting a declaration of war from the Federation. Many of the party's supporters were shocked by President Halsey's decision to open fire on refugee ships during the conflict. According to reports, Winters had questioned the action, arguing passionately with her friend Halsey behind closed doors, while maintaining a front of public solidarity. Consequently, she found herself responsible for a party whose voter base had largely deserted it, and whose values had slipped out of alignment with her own. Shortly after Halsey's disappearance, Zachary Hudson called for an emergency vote of no confidence that he resoundingly won, resulting in his appointment to the role of president. Given the massive support for Hudson and the disarray among the Liberals, Winters was expected to resign and let the Liberal Party rebuild itself from the ground up. Instead, she threw herself into her work, leading efforts to persuade various systems not to defect to the Alliance, and distributing aid packages to planets in need. Her energetic and proactive approach led to fresh support for both her and her party, and she currently rivals Hudson in the popularity stakes. Individuals. Hengist Duval. Hengist Duval, 3163 to 3301, was the 15th ruler of the Empire. He was assassinated on the day of his wedding to Florence Lavini. Hengist reigned during a time of significant change. The Imperial Senate had begun to grow in power, a process that had begun during the long sickness of Hengist's father, Hesketh. The development of the frameshift drive had radically altered life in human-occupied space, facilitating easy access to goods and interstellar travel, and opening formerly isolated cultures to outside influence. Old animosities between the Empire and the Federation finally began to fade. Hengist appeared to neither resist nor oppose these many changes, instead opting to keep the Empire as stable as he could on a day-to-day basis. This middle ground approach was deeply unpopular with the Empire's hardcore traditionalist elements, who saw Hengist as short-sighted, detached, and complacent. In 3238, Hengist wed Anthea Viola Lampeter in an arranged marriage, planned since his childhood by his late father. Despite a storm of publicity and celebrations across Imperial space that verged on hysterical, there was clearly little genuine affection between the couple. It was an open secret that the match had been made solely because of optimal genetic compatibility, and Hengist could not refuse without dishonoring his father's memory. As the marriage crumbled, Hengist spent much of his time with his boyhood friend, Aristide de Lavigny, and his wife, Florence, in their estate on Acheron. Inflammatory tracts from this period portray the imperial dynasty and its noble cohorts as little more than libertines, indulging in lascivious affairs and lengthy holidays, while the Senate did the real work of government. The most scurrilous rumor was that the Duval genetic code had been corrupted by centuries of interference, prompting speculation that a successor of the true blood would have to be found. The birth of Hengist's heir, Prince Harold, temporarily quietened the skeptics. A carefully orchestrated father-son photoshoot, when Harold was 9, showed the pair riding horses in Acheron, throwing javelins, watching a senatorial debate, and preparing
System scan complete.
for a seasonal feast. The photoshoot was clearly designed to appeal to traditional imperial values, and it succeeded. For several years after, Prince Harold was the darling of the empire, a symbol of promise and hope. The intense media focus on the prince's life is now believed to be partly responsible for his fall from grace, which saw him become a notorious playboy and philanderer, and which eventually resulted in his exclusion from the succession on the grounds of mental incapacity. Towards the end of Hengist's life, it emerged that Arissa Lavigny, the daughter of Florence Lavigny, was in fact his daughter. Hengist intended to strengthen her claim to the throne by marrying Florence, thus legitimizing Arissa, but he was assassinated before this could take place. The most enduring criticism of
Fuel scooping.
Hengist is that he failed to plan adequately for the future. Certainly, the matter of the succession created tensions that endure to this day.
Aisling de Val rejects Nova Imperium. Princess Aisling de Val has publicly rejected the isolationist group Nova Imperium and its figurehead, Hadrian de Val. These extremists cause only division. Hadrian may well be the grandson of Hengist de Val, but that hardly makes him suited to the throne. Arissa has been suffering for too long. She must act quickly to resolve this volatile situation. Senator Zemina Torval responded.
Frameshift drive charging.
Much to my surprise, I find myself in agreement with Princess de Val. The notion of an independent pilot becoming ruler of the Empire is preposterous. I am confident that the Emperor will respond accordingly.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Despite this united front, Senator Paul Vespasian stated, many senators are willing to recognize Hadrian de Val as Emperor-in-waiting. Nova Imperium is now a legitimate political movement with several million supporters. The only way the Empire will survive is by accepting the Imperator's proposals. Supplies needed for Imperial festivities. Imperial Senator Simone Leatrix has announced plans for a week of revelry at her palatial residence on Capitol in the Acheron system. The senator told the media, "We Imperials value the finer things, even during times of political upset. So I intend to celebrate the end of the year with a sumptuous party at my mountaintop retreat, which will be specially renovated for the occasion. To feed the hundreds of high-profile guests and decorate the senator's residence, Senator Leatrix has asked the Semi-S Imperial Society to organize deliveries of food and newly refined jewels to Mackenzie Relay and the Semi-S system. The initiatives begin on the 20th of December 3304 and will run for 1 week. If either initiative meets its targets earlier than planned, the campaign will end immediately." Battle ceases in Wally Bay system. The conflict between two opposing factions in the Wally Bay system
Fuel scooping.
has ended. The fleets of both the Wally Bay Technical and the traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party were significantly reduced in a prolonged series of battles. The leaders of both organizations issued a joint statement. "We recognize that our military leaders overreacted to accusations made by both parties. For humanitarian reasons, we have agreed to bring hostilities to an end. But we will honor the commitment made by independent pilots on both sides, who are now authorized to collect their rewards from the Wally Bay system." New mining tools released.
Fuel scooping complete.
range of new asteroid mining equipment is expected to trigger an increase in the availability of ores and minerals. A spokesperson for the Industrial Mining Guild discussed the new tools at an industry symposium. Using mining lasers to remove surface deposits from asteroids can be difficult. The new abrasion blaster fires projectiles that break them free more easily. For deeper deposits, subsurface displacement missiles can penetrate the rock and then be detonated remotely, releasing larger chunks of material. Finally, there is now a way to access valuable resources deep within certain rare bodies. Seismic charges, when carefully positioned, can crack an asteroid open and free the minerals at its core. Combined with upgrades to existing tools, such as scanners and prospector limpets, we are confident that these new tools will result in a surge in private mining activity. Call to ban Far God book. Disgraced politician Juanita Bishop has called for a forthcoming book about the Far God sect to be banned. The authors, Aliana Vanderconquo, are known alien sympathizers. One was arrested as a suspected traitor and the other has admitted to being a Far God cultist. What they're writing is nothing more than pro-Thargoid propaganda. It is an insult to all the brave souls who died trying to keep us safe. The authorities need to prevent this book from contaminating innocent people with its repulsive ideas. Journalist Gethin Okonkwo, who spent months undercover in the Far God sect, responded. The book includes first-hand accounts of worshippers being attacked by Bishop's followers. Her desperation to halt its publication is nothing more than an attempt to prevent a criminal investigation into her activities. Positive response to Vitadan nanomeds. The Interstellar Health Organization, IHO, has delivered a preliminary report on the nanomedicine
System scan complete.
recently developed by Vitadyne Labs. The summary stated, nanomedicine is a carefully regulated branch of medical science, with little scope for public application, but Vitadyne's nanomeds are more sophisticated and reliable than any existing product. Furthermore, Vitadyne's data regarding healing, disease treatment and extension of longevity has been verified. Having confirmed the product's effectiveness, IHO teams are now conducting
Frameshift drive charging.
independent tests with patients. Media outlet Vox Galactica published this viewpoint from healthcare analyst Dr. Himari Gray. The pharmaceutical industry is astonished that a small company like Vitadyne could produce
Ready to engage.
something so
4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
advanced. Professor Catrian Rook's credentials are impeccable, of course, but this is a work of genius. These nanomeds could be the most exciting thing in medicine for decades. Here are this week's major stories. A new networked system named the Codex has been released to the galactic community. The Codex is a joint initiative from the Pilots Federation and Universal Cartographics, which announced that the system had been automatically uploaded to all vessels registered with the Pilots Federation. 2 new ships marketed towards independent pilots have been released. The Mamba, from Zorgon Peterson, is reputedly one of the fastest
Fuel scooping.
ships in production, while the Crate Phantom, manufactured by Falcon de Lacy, has been envisaged as a multi-role vessel. Hadrian Augustus de Val, the long-lost grandson of Emperor Hengist de Val, has broadcast a message to the Empire in which he emphasized his humble background and stressed that he had lived an ordinary life. He concluded with the words, "I've seen how diminished the Empire has become, and I know that new leadership is sorely needed." Meanwhile, the Interstellar Health Organization
Scooping complete.
has delivered a preliminary report on the nanomedicines recently developed by Vitadyne Labs. The report states that Vitadyne's nanomeds are more sophisticated and reliable than any existing product, and that Vitadyne's data regarding healing, disease treatment and extension of longevity has been verified. In other news, conflict has erupted between 2 factions in the Wally Bay system. Hostilities were triggered after the Wally Bay Technical claimed to have discovered stolen food shipments aboard their rivals' transport vessels. This was denied in an official response by traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party. Military leaders from both factions have issued calls to independent combat pilots, offering rewards for their support. Finally, an initiative to deliver rare commodities to an esoteric cult in the Zlotta system has concluded. Barnabas Cole, leader of the Children of Tothos, submitted a handwritten message to the media that read, "By helping us, you free yourselves. You will feel the light of our testament fill you, just as it fills the heavens." And those are the main stories this week. Children of Tothos initiative concludes. An initiative to deliver rare commodities to an Here it comes, and this Lotus system has concluded. Independent traders provided Edinite Crush, Motrover Experience Jelly, and Onion Head for a ceremony to be performed by the children of Tothos. Other pilots protected the rare goods from being taken by pirates. Barnabas Kull, leader of the children of Tothos, gave another handwritten message to the media. By helping us, you free yourselves. You will feel the light of our testament fill you, just as it fills the heavens. The initiative was organized by Slaughter Federal Holdings, which allegedly counts some high-ranking officials as cult members. Contributing pilots can now collect their rewards from the slain Valhard settlement in the Slaughter system. Battle commences in Wally Bay system. Conflict has erupted between two opposing factions in the Wally Bay system. Hostilities were triggered after Wally Bay Technical claimed to have discovered stolen food shipments aboard their rivals' transport vessels. The faction's spokesperson said, "Robbing innocent people of vital supplies is nothing less than an act of war, and we are treating it as such." This was denied in an official response by the traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party. This outrageous accusation is intended to drive off our trade partners and damage our economy. We won't tolerate such slander. Military leaders from both Wally Bay Technical and the traditional Wally Bay Constitution Party have issued calls to independent combat pilots, offering rewards for their support. The two factions have set out week-long operations that will begin on the 13th of December 3304. Hadrian de Val addresses the Emperor. Hadrian Augustus de Val, the long-lost grandson of Emperor Henry de Val, has broadcast a message to the Empire. "I am no wealthy senator from an entitled family, but someone who has lived an ordinary life. Someone who understands." Hardships faced by many Imperial citizens. As Hadrian Jansen, I was a poor child with no family other than my father. Together we scraped a living as independent traders. He never spoke of his past, not even when he died 2 years ago. That was when I inherited his ship and became a commander myself. When Imperator Mordanticus informed me of my heritage, I knew I had to accept my identity as a Deval. I've seen how diminished the Empire has become, and I know that new leadership is sorely needed. I ask you to honor the legacy of the Deval bloodline. With Nova Imperium, let's save the Empire we love. Mamber. Released. 2 new ships marketed towards independent pilots, the Mamba and the Great Phantom, have just hit the market. Zorgon Peterson issued the following press release for its new vessel. "If it's speed and firepower you want, the Mamba is for you. Based on a racing prototype, it's the fastest commercially available starship, and it sports enough hard points for a range of devastating weaponry. Whether you're leaving competitors in the dust or running rings around those pesky Thargoids, think Mamba." Falcon de Lacy also released a statement for its latest design. The Great Phantom offers true multi-role capability, allowing it to be customized for combat, mining, or trading. And for explorers, its impressive jump range means you really can reach out to the stars. This is a ship that can handle it all. Introducing the Codex. A new network database system named the Codex has been released to the galactic community. The Codex is a joint initiative from the Pilots Federation and Universal Cartographics, which issued the following joint statement. "We are pleased to announce that the Codex has been automatically uploaded to the onboard systems of all vessels registered with the Pilots Federation. The Commander section of the Codex collates all ship data, including the pilot's personal achievements, while the knowledge base contains information on the galaxy's most prominent organizations."